I need to look at yours.
Fabiola.
You got the glasses and the visor. I need that too.
Michael. He's ready to start.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. We're going to get started shortly. I just wanted to let everybody know my name is Jasmine. I'm with the Dolores Huerta Foundation, and we'll be getting started with the Redistricting press conference. There will be live interviews after the conference in English and in Spanish from some of our community heroes with the organizations that are listed below. Alrighty. And I believe we have Michael facilitating. I'll pass it off to Michael. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming this morning. My name is Michael Evans. I'm the chair of the Central Valley Coalition for Equitable Realignment. So we're here today to talk about redistricting, and particularly redistricting at the Fresno County Board of Supervisors. This is a process we do every 10 years, and it's important that we get it right because it will affect our districts for the next 10 years. Our county has changed rather significantly over the past 30 years, and we're essentially still working on 1999 districts at the county level. But in 1990, more than 50% of the population in the county was white. Now more than 70% of the population is persons of color. So we have changed rather significantly, and we need fair and equitable districts that reflect that. So we are advocating for an equity coalition map, and we have a number of groups here today who have participated in the development of that map and participated in the coalition. And they're going to talk to us about why they support the map and why the redistricting process is so important. So we'll start with Alicio Gamino, who is with the Central Valley Roundtable Leadership Organization. So Alicio?
Hey, Alicio. Yeah.
Thank you. It's a privilege and an honor to be asked to come and share the voice of the communities that a lot of times have been neglected and abandoned. A lot of times drive-by communities, and I'm talking about Arroyo Cantua, San Joaquin, Fireball, Raisin City, Mendota. And the Central Valley Leadership Roundtable has been uniting the voices because that's what the mother leaders of these communities have asked, to have a roundtable to bring their issues. The issues about the quality of water, or should I say the poor water quality in these communities, beginning with Arroyo de Cantu, San Joaquin, Mendota, and other communities that have complained about the water. They have complained to the supervisors about the lack of resources, assistance with electricity, water bill, rent. We went through the pandemic and we allowed these families to go through fear of being evicted, the fear of not having a home. With all the COVID funding and care monies, we sat on those monies, and I'm talking about as county supervisors control that, or drag their feet to issue these communities that were in dire need the appropriate funding to address their issues. Now that we get a chance to redraw those boundaries, to make sure that they understand and they're connected to the communities, to the residents that live in those communities, it's an opportunity to reshape the type of services or lack of service that never trickled down to these rural areas. But now we have a voice through the Central Valley Leadership Roundtable. I'm proud to say that we support a fair map. We support the efforts through the Fresno Equity Coalition because they did their homework. They know the communities. They took time to study the areas, keeping account the race of the population, the Hispanic community over the years, now that the data census is in. And yet the supervisors have not even given us a draft or a sample map what they're considering. That raises a red flag because our communities have always been abandoned. And I'm talking all those communities west of 99, west of 41. These communities need attention. They need someone that represents those communities, that understands those communities. and that reflect the ethnic composition of our communities. Ya estuvo suave. El cambio está aquí. Nosotros vamos a hacer el cambio. ¿Okay? Si no han hecho esos cambios los supervisores que se han sentado en todo ese dinero del gobierno del COVID-19, CARES monies, no ayudaron para las rentas, no ayudaron para la luz, pues fueron promesas falsas, salían, vamos a hacer una rifa para negocios pequeños de 5,000. Eso no es ayuda. La gente ya está desolucionada, por eso estoy aquí como presidente de la Mesa Redonda de Liderazgo del Valle Central, porque ya estuvo suave. Thank you.
Thank you, Eliseo. Next, we're going to hear from one of our labor partners. We have Heather Evans from SEIU 521. Heather?
Hey, Heather. Hey.
Good afternoon. My name is Heather Evans, and I am the co-chair of SEIU 521's Committee on Political Education. And I'm here again today. I was back here speaking with the board yesterday about the atrocious condition for the Children and Child Protective Services. And at yesterday's meeting, we had emailed the chairman of the board asking if we could have our agenda, or our item on the agenda, moved up, because people took time off work to come and speak out on behalf of the children. And we received no response. And when the chairman was questioned about it, he said, "Oh, I received that. It was my decision." And he just felt like ignoring our request because he doesn't care that it takes time away from our essential work to speak out for these children. And this is at a time when the department head of DSS and the CAO and the BOS are all running around pointing fingers at each other, trying to find somebody they can pin the blame on for the child neglect under their care. This is a crisis. And this is what happens when the Board of Supervisors doesn't see us as their community. They're not worried about those children being their children. And they don't recognize us in any way. Not by gender, not by race, not by income. And so, sure, they'll wear ribbons for domestic violence victims, but they won't fund the services that let domestic violence victims rebuild their lives because they don't see themselves in us. And they don't need to. They've drawn themselves comfy seats a decade ago. And that decade has seen our wages stagnate and our county remain at the top of the state's poverty rate. And until we get an equitable map that reflects the community that is here in Fresno, it will go on this way. Thank you.
Exactly. Hey, anybody?
Thank you, Heather. Okay, next, one of our key coalition partners has been the Dolores Huerta Foundation, and Olga Loza is going to introduce a couple of the vecinas to provide some guidance.
Hi, how are you? We are here talking about this process to be and understanding our communities that this process is only once in 10 years. They need to learn this process for the next generation, but actually we need to learn this process to be counting because we are the majority. The Latino communities are the majority. We need to put our points, learn this process and open your voices to just be present in this process. And I have two vecinas that volunteer for Dolores Huerta Foundation. They always and everything. I'm proud that these two vecinas belong to our foundation, and they want to talk about this process and why they care about this process. That way that our community are listen and learn, because everybody can do this. Queremos que todos cuenten, pero más que nada nuestra comunidad latina, porque somos la mayoría y porque estamos aquí para contarnos, que aprendamos, que nosotros tengamos la mente abierta de este proceso cada 10 años, pero para nuestras siguientes generaciones, ¿qué es lo que queremos dejarles a ellos? ¿Cómo queremos vivir en 10 años que venga otra vez ese proceso? Eso es lo que queremos que aprendamos y queremos que nuestra comunidad cuente, que nuestra comunidad abra sus mentes, abra su voz y que diga, aquí estamos presentes. Los invitamos a que participen en este proceso, a que participen en esto que es solamente una vez cada 10 años. Mi primera de mis vecinas que voy a presentar es Norma Sandoval, que va a hablar con nosotros.
Muy buenas tardes a todos. Good afternoon. Mi nombre es Norma Sandoval y yo soy voluntaria con la Fundación Dolores Huerta y yo trabajo en la educación y compromiso cívico en la comunidad. Y como muchas personas aquí estoy profundamente preocupada por el futuro de nuestro condado y en la representación equitativa de la comunidad. Estamos aquí como una coalición de varias organizaciones y miembros de la comunidad que exigen que el condado de Fresno use el proceso justo para la redistribución de distritos. Cada 10 años tenemos la oportunidad y la obligación de ver los datos del censo, de desarrollar un mapa que refleje la diversidad de nuestra comunidad. Cuando se lleva a cabo de manera justa, que refleje la presión, los cambios, la población y la diversidad racial. Sabemos, como los comentarios que han hecho directamente los supervisores de la Junta del Condado de Fresno, que algunos quieren mantener los distritos exactamente como están. Sabemos que sería más conveniente silenciar nuestra voz para nuestra comunidad y tener nuestra participación. Pero un proceso justo, los votantes deberían exigir a sus políticos, no los políticos sus distritos. Los datos más recientes del censo muestran que los latinos somos ahora la mayoría en el condado de Fresno. Otros grupos étnicos no blancos étnicos también constituyen una población. Significa nuestra comunidad. No aceptamos la minoría blanca ocupen el 80% de los escaños de junta de supervisores en el condado de Fresno. Debemos poner fin a la manipulación y exigir un mapa justo.
Nuestra siguiente participante es Brenda Rojas.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Brenda Rojas y como muchas personas aquí estoy profundamente preocupada por el futuro de nuestro condado y el de representación equitativa de mi comunidad. Yo personalmente estoy participando en todo el proceso de todo lo que está pasando, pero creo que no es justo que siempre cuando vamos a una junta no se nos tome en cuenta como hispanos, como personas que tenemos una opinión y lo que realmente queremos para nuestra comunidad y para nuestro municipio. No nos escuchan. Nosotros estamos aquí para que ustedes nos escuchen a nosotros, no nosotros oírlos a ustedes. Creo que es justo que se nos tome en cuenta. Ustedes están tomando la decisión o quieren tener la decisión de tener el mapa igual como se tiene ahorita y creo que no es justo. Tienen que oírnos a nosotros como comunidad. Ya estamos cansados que nunca se nos tome en cuenta. Ahorita los hispanos somos muchos en esta comunidad. Óiganos, escúchennos, oigan a cada una de las personas que se toma el tiempo de ir a preocuparse con el mapa que están haciendo. No es justo que lo mantengan igual como están. Queremos ver cambio. Hagan el cambio por nuestra comunidad, por los hispanos y por todos los niños que vienen atrás. Creo que es justo que se nos tome en cuenta, que hagamos por primera vez lo correcto. No piensen en ustedes, sino por los que están atrás de nosotros. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, Brenda. Norma, ahora vamos a seguir con Michael.
Thank you very much. Okay, next we're going to have one of our key community leaders from Cultiva La Salud, Beba Islas.
Thank you, Pam. Gracias. My name is Genoveva Islas. I'm the Executive Director of Cultiva La Salud, and I also happen to be a Fresno Unified School Board member. And I want to begin with sharing a little bit about my history because it relates to how unequitable investments and poor decisions made by people who don't represent our community impact the lives of all of us. My parents are immigrants from Mexico. We were living in Orange Cove, California when I was born, and my mother was a high-risk pregnancy. She had to deliver here in Fresno. That's why I was born in Fresno, because there wasn't a hospital that would see individuals like my mother, uninsured, high risk, someone who had not received prenatal care. Luckily, I was delivered, but it wasn't without risk of having to travel that distance, not having had access to a healthcare provider. Those are the type of historical things and traumas that have affected our community, and I think that are things that we are all here speaking loudly today to avoid, right? We want to have just policies, just access to all of the resources and services that everyone rightfully deserves. We all come from different backgrounds, from families and regions of Fresno County, but we, I think, can all agree on one thing, and that is that our communities deserve equitable representation, and the voices of our communities must be heard through this process. Over the past year and a half, we have been very involved in vaccinations, in testing, in COVID relief, in feeding families, right? We have a whole host of undocumented elders who have not been eligible for resources or support, no stimulus dollars, but they're residents who have spent their lives working the fields of this valley and who deserve better. And in this process, what is clear is that we have had to fight for those investments to serve our community who has been most impacted by COVID. It's been these Board of Supervisors who have made the funding resource dedication most troubling and hard, and that fight is not over. So we deserve to have the Equity Coalition map because it creates opportunity to elect supervisors who are more representative and more responsive and should result in policies and funding decisions that will have a positive impact to improve the lives of our residents. We particularly support the use of Highway 41, Southeast Avenue, as an easy identifiable artificial boundary between the rural west side and the rural east side of Fresno County. The two distinct regions have significant differences. On the east side, the farmers have smaller farms with more communities that are more densely populated. On the west side, the communities are fewer and farther apart with much bigger farms and more mechanized agriculture that requires less labor. The east side grows citrus and fresh fruit, whereas the west side grows almonds, pistachios, tomatoes, garlic, and melons. Each region deserves to have its own representatives that will meet the challenges and uplift the issues and the needs of their communities. We strongly support adding urban neighborhoods in southeast Fresno, south of Kings Canyon Avenue and Calwa to EMC's proposed District 4, as they share socioeconomic similarities with residents in the rural communities of the east side and warrant being in the same district. This is a heavily Latino district. Many families share immigrant backgrounds like mine and are limited English proficient. They live in high poverty areas and crowded housing and work both low wage and seasonal work. I'm sorry, I lost my place. They live in high poverty areas in crowded housing with work both low wages and seasonal and difficulty accessing health and social services, as I've outlined for my family and other residents living there. Many travel to work in surrounding fields, packing houses, food processing plants, or other ag-related jobs. Together, they all face similar challenges around educational attainment, housing, and healthcare access. The Advisory Redistricting Commission should recommend the Equity Coalition map for the supervisors to adopt. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Beba. Okay, our final two speakers are both longtime community leaders. They have seen tremendous change over the past many decades. They have seen inequities. They have seen those inequities exacerbated. And now is the time to do something about that. And we can start by creating fair and equitable districts. So first, we have Venancio Gaona. Please come forward.
Muy buenos dias, good morning. In the words of the early farm workers back with Cesar Chavez, 1965-66, pan y justicia. We are here for pan y justicia,
Justice.
for bread and justice.
Hey, little buddy.
I'd like to read the following to you. The Equity Map Coalition requests the Fresno County Board of Supervisors Advisory Redistricting Commission to carefully review and recommend the coalition's proposed map to the Board of Supervisors. The Equitable Map or Equity Map Coalition has proposed a community-driven response that provides constructive input to the Fresno County Board of Supervisors' obligatory public duty to address and respond to the 2020 U.S. Census data to develop district maps that are reflective of the new demographics of the county. The coalition has taken the Fair Maps Act literally and has engaged the public by conducting outreach and disclosure among the people of color in the districts of the county. The coalition has also attended and participated in all related Fresno County Board of Supervisors and Advisory Redistricting Commission meetings and hearings, informing these two entities of its interest and desire for fair and equitable 2021 Fresno County district maps. The Equity Map Coalition has studied and adhered to the U.S. Constitution, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and especially the Fair Maps Act of 2019 to ensure that minorities have an equal opportunity to elect representatives of their choice in drawing its proposed map. In conclusion, we urge the Advisory Redistricting Commission to strongly recommend the map proposed by the Equity Coalition to the Board of Supervisors as a map for adoption in compliance with federal and state laws. I also would like to add that this has been an admirable effort by by members of the coalition and organizations in the community. We owe a debt of gratitude, especially to the Dolores Huerta Foundation and the Central California Equitable Coalition for Fair Redistricting. Thank you.
Hey, little buddy.
Great. Thank you very much, Venancio. So our final speaker will be Juan Arambula. Juan is a former assembly member, a former member of the Board of Supervisors. As an elected official in various bodies, he is intimately familiar with the redistricting process and as close to an expert as you can get. So we'd like to bring Juan forward. Thank you.
Hey, Daddy.
Good morning. Michael is absolutely correct. There has been a great deal of change in Fresno County. For example, 20 years ago, I served on the Board of Supervisors when we went through redistricting. We did not have the law that we have today, the California Fair Maps Act, to guide us. We do now. It is state law, and it has to be obeyed by the Board of Supervisors. You know, 20 years ago is a long time ago, but the population of Fresno County has changed dramatically over these last 20 years. We have to keep up with the times. I urge the current supervisors to give serious consideration to the Equity Coalition map because it reflects what the county is today, not what it was 20 years ago. And the new California law requires the supervisors to take into account communities of interest. Farm workers are a community of interest. Poor people are a community of interest. And I look with sadness at what's going on with the child welfare system today. 20 years ago, I was involved in helping set up the Foster Care Oversight Committee that guided us out of the last crisis. Today, less than half of the members of the Oversight Committee have even been appointed by this Board of Supervisors. We want to go forward. We don't want to go back. And for that reason, I just want to end with this. Today, the supervisors this year have an opportunity to remake the districts to reflect what is going on with the demographic changes in Fresno County. Because as not only a former supervisor, but also a retired attorney, having studied the California Fair Maps Act, I can assure you that if the maps the Board of Supervisors adopts this year are substantially similar to what they were in 2011, and that map was substantially similar to the one that was adopted in 2001. If they keep going in this direction, I suspect that there's going to be a serious challenge to their actions. So please, supervisors, listen to your community, listen to your constituents, listen to the law, and look forward and help guide this county over the next 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. I would like to thank all of our coalition partners for showing up here today. Any of the speakers and most of the participants are willing to be interviewed. We have people who can do interviews in Spanish as well. So thank you for coming, and if you have any questions at all, please feel free to ask. Thank you.
Can we gather for a group photo real quick with all the speakers right here? Alrighty. And then everybody just make sure you have your mask on, covering your nose. Okay. And the person taking the photo will be Ashley right here. She's raising her hand. So we'll go in between the speakers. Speakers in between the speakers. Okay.
Sí se puede.
Let me move this.